the time frame, but I think it was really critical that we did hear your voices. So, as I indicated earlier on, if you could actually put, oh, I don't know if you want to do the recording again, Adrian.
Yeah, I've just turned it on.
Okay. Um, so if you could actually just put your points that came out of your group in the chat, please, because we'd welcome those observations to take away and to consider what we do. Because one of the things we'll need to consider is what next steps we do want to take following the session. Um, um,
Is there a way that is there a way that the feedback can be summarised in a short sort of Word document and sent? I think we've got too much to send in the chat, to be honest.
Well, you can actually put it in. The chat can take quite a lot of information too. It's almost like a document, so it all be documented there. But if you would prefer to put it in an email, then we can put an email address.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be much better.
I'll put an email
I've got to hop off in a moment.
I'll put an email in the chat for that to happen. However, thank you very much for participating in that. We're now going to just try and conclude, and I'm going to ask Leslie Billy, who is the chief exec for Viewpoint, one of the partners in this particular putting together this evening, to just have a little reflection and suggest where we might go, particularly. Well, actually, no. Over to you, Leslie. I'll come back and say a couple of words after that.
I'd have loved your help here, Clive. So I think it's been a really interesting hour, and I think we could have done with a longer period of time to have this discussion, I think, and possibly a little bit earlier. I also think that one of the things that I feel we should be doing is meeting up again to really consolidate what we think would be the right next steps to take. Certainly, one of the things that there's a number of things that came out of today's meeting. One was the use of the term BAME, and how problematic that can be for people, and that we need to find a better description for our community that better describes our approach in terms of accessing mental health services, and how mental health services refer back to us. I would also say, taking on board what was said today, I think there is an issue about how we as a community involve ourselves in all aspects of mental health service provision and the work in terms of redesigning. So I certainly know there's a lot of work going on in terms of mental health community redesign. And I don't feel that that touches many people from BMA community, many people from our communities. And I think there is a real need for more involvement in helping to shape what the next iteration of mental health provision will be. Oh, let me see. I've just seen something here from Kathy, so I might just raise that as well. If you don't mind.
Sure. Sure.
So I'll raise this book. I think it is useful. So Kathy raised the point to improve cultural competence.
So this is just my notes from our group session, just trying to remember the things that people talked about.
Okay, I might not read it then, but I think that there is something about cultural competencies and unconscious bias as well as being part of the training, but I don't think it's just for healthcare staff. I think it's for all of us to be aware of our cultural competences and our unconscious bias in terms of how we approach services. But also, I think this isn't just about, one of the things that came out in our conversation when I went into the breakout room, this isn't just about mental health services. This is about community services and how we all engage in terms of supporting the community. We will have, I think it's true to say, people that will be younger people that will need a service, and older people that will need a service, and not just a service that's wrapped around mental health, but wrapped around the whole community in supporting them. So I've said about the BAME being a problematic word. I was taken by Hollis's description of when he went in hospital the first time and the diagnosis he received and whether that was the right diagnosis. And I think there's a question about checking back on a diagnosis you receive, whether it's schizophrenia or whether it's psychosis, because those two terms are loaded with meaning and thoughts and stigma. And I think there is a point where we go back and ask the question, is this the correct diagnosis? Because my sense of it might be that it wasn't the correct diagnosis for Hollis. I don't know, and I might not think, but I would suggest that that might not be the case. And it's about being clear about what that is and what that means and why disproportionately Black men seem to get this diagnosis as opposed to the general population or to white men. I know that there is an issue about and I'll be quick. I know there's an issue about big black men being scary and how big black men are treated throughout the system. I think big black men entirety is scary for the system and how the system treats black men. I think we need to challenge that. We really need to get together and challenge that. I think what's really come out to me today is the need for us to coalesce, to get together, to have a voice that is both meaningful on the ground floor, where people are getting services, and meaningful when people are shaping services. And so I would suggest, again, quite strongly, that we meet again, and that next time we meet again, we think about quite clearly, what is it that we want to take forward? What is it that we want to do? What changes do we want to make? How do we want to make those changes? How can we get involved in the different systems and meetings that we have that are going on at the moment? Not just within health, not just within HPFT, but in the wider healthcare system. There's lots of work going on in transformation, and I think we should be involved at the forefront of that work, shaping how the services will impact on our lives. So I just give you that as a brief synopsis.
Thanks, Leslie. I'm very conscious that we run way over the time, and I think for good reasons. I'm not going to say a great deal other than to say that if you're in a group that wants a feedback by email, I've put the email address in that you can feedback to within the chat. I've also put some stuff in there regarding where you can find out some of the other things that are happening for Black History Month in Watford this month. I think I'm also going to ask people, because one of the things I was going to say was that make some observations about the next steps. But can I ask you, as you're online at the moment, using the chat function, could you also put in there something that you think we should do? What should be the next step in your view? And we'll look at those two. Just so type in something about what you think the next step should be. I think Leslie, right? I don't think we've had enough time. And we were conscious that it was a bit tight, the time frame, but we recognize that people are struggling with their time and so many things are going on. So we didn't actually want to overrun. But clearly, I think this conversation tells us that this cannot be the end of this conversation. We've got to go on. There's some complicated issues that we have to explore. I think we have to be pretty clear on distinct about what it is that we're saying. There's no doubt in my mind that if you're wanting to look at the African or the Caribbean experience, then the term BAME is not helpful. And in that instance, we do need to call a spade a spade and say, if we want to talk about Africa, we talk about Africa, and we can talk about the diaspora, which includes the Caribbean. But BAME does not do that, and I don't think any of us would make any claim that it does that. But I think there may be a place for that term, and I don't know that we've found an alternative term that encapsulates all that we're seeking to do. But there's no doubt, as I've said before, that if we're talking about African experience, then BAME does not cut it. I think Cedric made a point that I wanted to pick up on, and it is one that we have to be conscious of, about the fact that it's not enough just to have a black face in a room. You do have to have a face that has the capacity and the competence to actually come to actually make a contribution in often a hostile environment, and you have to be pretty strong in that kind of environment to do that. I know there are some people who want to ask some questions, but I kind of just want to allow that to happen, but more informally. So what I want to do is to kind of thank our speakers. Patrick is brilliant as usual. Mohsen for that excellent overview of services. Ollis for sharing his experiences and some of the challenges that he's facing on that way. Any for urge to serve, which I think is correct too. Most importantly, I thank you all for being with us this evening. This clearly cannot be the end of the story. It's got to be one of the steps on the way that we take to make improvement. Thank also to my colleagues who have been from HPFT, have been part of organizing this event, and to Leslie from Viewpoints for also making this evening what it has been. So I'm going to say we're going to stop recording there. But that means that if you do want to leave, then please do leave. But I know there's some people who have some questions, and I'd like, if possible, for us to give them the floor, but actually just end the formality so those who want to leave can leave. So thank you very much. And that